Trey Hendrickson. Seems like every show is about him. We'll talk about this coming up next on the Wincinnati podcast.
It's an exciting time to be a Bengals fan.
Welcome to the Wincinnati podcast. I'm Ace, he's Zim. If you guys are just now checking this out, please feel free to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button if you're new here. If you rock with us over here, that lets us grow this channel up. Make sure that you share this video. We appreciate y'all. Turn the notification bell on as well, just so you know whenever we go live. Also, make sure you check out the Bengals post as well. But we're here to talk about one thing and one thing only. Well, no, maybe two things, because we need to talk about the draft. Trey Hendrickson in this situation, but we're also going to talk edge rushers from the draft as well. So we're going to keep it on topic. Partner, we were just backstage talking about hooking up this summer to try to do something on the AAU circuit or in one of these tournaments. What can the Bengals do to hook up this Trey Hendrickson situation? Because Katie Blackburn, man, since the last time we were on, Katie Blackburn had some troubling quotes. Trey Hendrickson has now appeared on the Pat McAfee show. However, Ian Rappaport has also given us an update. Before we get into all of that, partner, how you doing? How you feeling about the Trey Hendrickson situation?
I don't feel as good as I did before. There were a lot of reports, like last week where Ian Rappaport and others had mentioned that it was pretty much a done deal. Like this is, I'm thinking this thing might be coming down the finish line. Who knows? Like according to everybody that's been reporting that this is done. You know what I mean? So don't feel as strong. But as we're going to talk about this conversation, there's not too many ways this can go. You know what I mean? And that's where I don't know if that gives me more comfort or whatever, but there's not that many different options for Trey Hendrickson. I'm gonna just keep it a bean. And I don't know if that means there ain't that many options for the Bengals either, but here we are. And I think that's why maybe we're talking edge rushers today, in the draft. But other than that, man, I'm doing really good. Just winding, getting into the flow of the week and doing everything that we need to do to be productive as big time Bengals podcasters, I guess. I don't know.
Nah, that's real, man. So I got a couple of quotes here. I'm pretty sure everybody here has heard it, because if you're a diehard friend, you watch this podcast. Katie Blackburn at the NFL's annual league meeting here in Florida, down where I'm at. I should have pulled up on Katie, bro, after I heard this. She's talking about I think he should be happy at certain rates that maybe he doesn't think he'd be happy at. She also said, I think some of it is on him to be happy at some point. And if he's not, that's what holds it up sometimes. So, it takes him to say yes to something. Another quote, we have all the respect in the world for him. He's been a great player. We're happy to have him. And so maybe we'll find a way to get something to work. We're going to see where it goes. Now, that seems to me that Katie's kind of putting it off on Trey. Trey made an appearance today on the Pat McAfee show. I got a lot of quotes, but here are some of the main ones that he had. That was a little disappointing because communication has been poor over the last couple of months. That's something I hold in high regard. They have not communicated with my agent directly. It's been something that's been a bit frustrating. Those comments from Katie Blackburn were definitely disappointing, and communication has been poor for over the last couple of months. Once again, says it's been a little frustrating. If they have anything they'd like to discuss, we're definitely willing to listen. Also said 3 years ago, I began to ask for a long-term contract with guaranteed money. It was very confusing what I read yesterday. He even said he thought they were pulling an April Fool's joke on him. and his agent said it was real. This was really a quote from KD.
A lot of people said that to me when I had posted it. It was like, bro, this is April. I'm like, this is not.
It's not. It's not. Another one from Trey. We don't have any desires of being the highest paid or first in line. We try to be as patient as possible. I don't think I want to play for incentives that will be out of my control. I don't think I want to play on a short-term contract and see where it goes. Another one, to read what I read yesterday was confusing, like it's my decision. I would have been willing to sign 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and this year. It was communicated to me that we would get something done this year.
But that last one throws me off because he says I would have been willing to sign 3 years ago, but you did sign 2 years ago. That's the part that's like throwing me off. Is like he's making it sound like somebody forced him to sign that, or he signed that under like false pretenses or something like that. I don't know. I don't know. Like why do you think he's saying I would have signed it 3 years ago? Like, is he saying in terms of long-term extension? Because he did get an extension 2 years.
He did get an extension. He got a 1-year extension. My question to you is, was that after the Super Bowl?
Yes.
So it was after the Super Bowl. I think he still had 1 year left. They did the extension after that,
which gave him 2. He got it in 2022.
He got it in 2022. So the beginning of 2022, or because that would be after the Super Bowl.
No, after 22, going into 23.
Going into 23. So after they went to the AFC Championship, he decides, let's add another year on. That part of it is confusing. And that's a great point that you've always brought up, because you were like, he already got an extension. He's not even eligible for it. That was something that you brought up too. He wouldn't even be eligible for another extension. I think his agent just did a bad deal, bro. Like, honestly, from my standpoint, I felt like they should have did more years just because they were kind of ahead of the curve on the Trey Hendrickson thing. But now with it playing out the way that it did, I don't think, and I think you brought this up plenty of times, I don't think his agent is getting enough of the criticism than he should. Like, I've always said the Bengals should have given him more years, right? But you could also say his agent shouldn't have taken that deal at the same time. Mm-hmm. So I think now where we're at, I'm just kind of confused. I'm not a NFL legal expert, but people are saying he couldn't have signed another extension because he signed that other one so soon. So I don't know.
Last year he could have signed it when he first did the trade thing or voiced that he was unhappy. The argument at that point was it hadn't even been a full calendar year. You could have put something in place, like right when the 12-month period had, hit,
right,
and behind the scenes, like, and I'm sure people do that all the time or whatever, like if they run into the same situation, but it was never awarded that. So when it came for like when he was like he wanted a longer term extension, people like myself were sitting there saying, well, you just got an extension. You know what I mean? And you just agreed to the terms. And at the time that he took it, you got to understand the landscape of what everything was at that point. The money was different. And he could have took a chance, much like T. Higgins and Jamar Chase just did, and he didn't. And he took the first extension or whatever, or his agent, Harold Green, I believe is his name. I'm going to make sure I get his name right. Harold Lewis took that extension at that point. And you could have bet on yourself at that point, but you didn't. And you took the security of the right now. And for all the people that say that the Bengals should get out in front of stuff, there's an instance where they got out in front of it. And when they got out in front of it, you see the other flip side of it. Like, think about it like right now. I don't know if y'all know this, but Lamar Jackson is about to go into an active negotiation right now. They got out in front of the deal. Now, I don't know if he'll be upset that he doesn't get the deal done or whatever before the year if he doesn't, right? But that was someone that got out in front of it, even though they waited, the whole situation. But they got out in front of that, the market at that point. But what happens is the market resets itself every couple years, depending on how this goes, no matter what. Trey Hendrickson could have waited at that point. He didn't. And I think that for everybody that's always talking about how the Bengals wait, there's one instance where they didn't wait and they did extend him. It wasn't a long-term extension, but remember, they're going up against the fact that he's 30 years old. You're not knowing that he's going to be the sack king. And if you are, you're like, all right, bet. Then we got him all the way till he's 30 years old. And so I just find it really crazy that now everybody's like, I can't stand the Bengals. Like, they did exactly what y'all said that they should have did when it came to the T. Higgins and the Jamar Chase one. Now you're not happy that they got out in front of it. That's the part that's confusing to me. Should it have been longer term? Sure, in hindsight, but you're not knowing that he's going to be the sack leader at that point. So I don't know, bro. Like, to me, now that's how I set the table right there. Now moving forward, he's now earned the right to get paid way more than what he's getting paid right now. Those are two separate arguments. And I think sometimes there has to be somebody out there that's similar to me, though, or that has an opinion similar to me, to be like, every time something happens that doesn't go in the favor of the Bengals, we're all just going to say, yeah, F the front office. Like, there got to be like somebody that says, let's take a look at both sides of this or whatever. And to me, I look at all these situations like there's two different things going. The T. Higgins situation, he was coming off of the worst season of his career. It wasn't a no-brainer. Jamar Chase one should have got done. There's no excuse for that, but they didn't, and he ended up being the highest paid. Like, the cap went up. There's so many different things like that I just think that people don't really pay attention to, I guess, or care. I don't know.
Yeah, I think with the Trey Hendrickson situation, where it's at now, is just the market. The issue with this one is it's very similar to the T. Higgins situation last year, whereas outside of production, like you pointed out, but the market is expanding, right? So you've got the Bengals trying to get this deal done with a player that is obviously part of their core, but you now had to fit in a more expensive Jamar Chase contract, a T. Higgins contract, and now you're talking about an edge market that's starting to balloon. Whereas if this deal were done a year ago, they probably saved themselves a lot of money. So now they're up against two kind of things here, which is Trey still feeling slighted because obviously he requested a trade last season because he wanted more long-term security. And now to me, it's like he not only does he want to be or know where he's going to be at, he also wants to guarantee money. This is something that's always been a sticking point for the Bengals. And then I feel like he also has the 30 piece, being 30, going against him as well. Like, ever since the Bengals did the Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap deals and they didn't work out, and even somewhat before that, they have not really stuck with guys that are 30. Like, it's no secret with the Mike Hilton situation. As he gets closer to 30, it's no secret that they're setting these contracts up. Even when you look at the T. Higgins one, a lot of them end before somebody hits 30. And Andrew Whitworth has kind of spoken to this at volumes where the Bengals just feel like after you hit 30, you're falling off of a cliff. And they feel like the risks kind of go up on their end. So they're not necessarily wanting to pay that guaranteed money over that time because they just feel like their philosophy is, once you hit 30, you're not that guy. Now, do I agree with that? I don't, because I live in a division where we have guys like Calais Campbell. We've got guys like Derrick Henry. We've got guys like Cam Hayward.
Calais, signed with the Cardinals, just so we know.
He just signed with the Cardinals. Like, Cam Hayward.
That we should have.
I thought Cam Hayward was done 3 years ago.
I did too.
Still doing his thing. So I think, like, for the Bengals, what I have always said is this. Is he going to have 17 and a half sacks every season? No. But, like, I think even if Trey Hendrickson were to regress from where he's at right now, he's still probably a top 10 edge rusher. He's still going to give you 12, 13, at the least 10. I don't think he's going all the way down to 8 sacks a season. Like, I don't see that happening.
Yeah,
I
don't
think
either.
The trajectory that he's on isn't going to do that. So I get their concern, but, like, your focus should be Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Super Bowl window. I'm not worried about what Trey Hendrickson is going to be 3 years from now. I'm worried about this window right now. Can I win a Super Bowl right now in the next 2 years? Does Trey Hendrickson better my chances in the next 2 years?
Yes.
And I feel like the answer to that is yes. And if that's the answer, I feel like that's what you got to go with.
See, the part that the Bengals, I feel like Bengals, people use the word leverage a lot. I do feel like the Bengals do have the leverage because he's under contract. But the one thing that they don't have, and I think people, let's just play this out real quick. Say that the Bengals say, we are going to give you the guarantees or whatever. I don't think that they're in a position based off of what they just did with the cap space. We just had a great episode with Andre Parada just 2 episodes ago. If you guys want to check that out. But the designation of the prorated contracts changed it from a cap space situation where I think the future cap space or whatever and the dead cap stuff isn't going to play a factor in it. But when you're doing that, you're now eating up a lot of the cap space. Trey Hendrickson's contract out of all of those guys was never one that was going to give them more cap relief unless you front load the hell out of it. It was just never on. There was no way logistically that I think it could be manipulated where you could have it like that. So the Bengals would have to go and exhaust a lot of cap space, which is their fault. It's not Trey Hendrickson's fault. And they could do that. But then moving forward, say something doesn't happen the way that they wanted to, I just think it really messes them up from a roster construction standpoint. But that, again, that's something that they did, and that's their error. If the only thing I can see happening is if we get to draft night, and I keep on saying these 2 teams because we talk about the current window of teams right now and who's got ammo. If the Commanders or the Eagles did not get, say they had their eyes set on James Pierce, like say, for instance, they said this is the only guy that we think can help us in the first round of this draft. They say that guy goes, somebody drafts him. I don't know, Giants, I don't know. And then they get to a point and they say, well, let's call the Bengals up. I'll send them a first round pick, right? Our first round pick. And I say the Eagles because the Eagles have 20 picks in the next 2 years. The Commanders also hold pick number 29. And they have the ability to pay a Trey Hendrickson because of Jaden Daniels on a rookie contract. Very, very specific team, right? If they did something like that, I think the Bengals, you might say, you take it, bro. It's a first round pick. But if you're talking about a Super Bowl window, the dilemma that people aren't thinking, and most people outside of the Bengals won't even think that they'll get a first round pick. I'm being very generous in saying I think that he's worth a first round pick. If he isn't worth a first round pick, then he doesn't warrant a $30 million salary, right? Because that's what that's the value of, if you're saying he's so good and he's so all pro, whatever, he's worth $30 million. Surely somebody would give you a first round pick. If all of those teams are scoffing at the notion of giving a first round pick for him, then that's letting you know that all these teams don't feel like he's worth $30 million. But if a team does, and they sent the first round pick, as a Bengal fan or as a Bengal enthusiast or anything Bengals related, does that make your team better in 2025? And that's the dilemma that I run across. It's like, I think that I would take that pick, but I don't think that, for instance, James Pierce, if I drafted him and I drafted another defensive edge or tackle early in the draft, I don't think that that makes me better in 2025. Maybe 2026, maybe 2027, maybe 2020. But in 2025, I don't think that makes me better. I feel like the Bengals lose all their leverage and they lose whatever they could have had. So then the other thing that Ian Rappaport was talking about today is this.
Hold on 1 second, Zell. We are about to cut the feed from Twitter. So if you guys are over there, head on over to the Wincinnati YouTube channel. We're going to continue this conversation over there. We appreciate y'all. We will see you over on YouTube. Go ahead, Zell.
Yep. And so now the next thing is this. Okay, Ian Rappaport said this, and I said this earlier. Yeah, you might be watching this and say, just pay him. Just give him what he wants, right? Trey Hendrickson is saying, I want to be ready for OTAs. I want to be ready. There's nothing that will make there is no deadline for the Bengals. Like, there's nothing that says that they have to do this right now. And from the outside looking in, it's not your money. So it's very easy for somebody at home to be like, yeah, bro, just give him 28 million. Like, what are you playing around with? I get that sentiment, but there's also a business negotiation going on that doesn't make me like, you're not going to tell me when I have to spend my money. If anybody that's listening to this, I don't care what you're telling. There's nobody in the world that's going to tell you when to spend your money. You know what I'm saying? I just come to that point too. There is no deadline. And I don't know, man. I think that it could happen, but there's no deadline. So what is this angst of it's got to get done now? Like, I don't understand that part. And maybe somebody can help me figure out that part. I don't know. I would just go if I'm the Bengals and I work off of that and I see what I got.
We got a super chat here from our guy Fuzzy. He says Trey isn't worth 30 million a year.
Fuzzy who, bro?
Fuzzy. Yes, it's your boy Fuzzy. Trey isn't worth 30 million a year. He had 7 sackless games in 2024. In the 35-34 loss to the Ravens, he had no sacks, no QB hits, misleading stats, bro. Respectfully, hey, I appreciate you, Fuzzy. Let me just say that. We are not going to do this thing again where Trey Hendrickson has fake sacks.
Wait a second. Hold on, Ace. I had to tell you this. Fuzzy Balls is a Ravens fan. So before you go in, just
okay. No, so now I can really go in. You just let me know. All right, Fuzzy. First of all, he put your man and Villanueva into retirement. He put him on the couch. So let's just start there. Let's not act like Trey never did anything against the Ravens. 17.5 sacks. I'm going to say this as well. You have never seen an edge rusher with 17.5 sacks, probably in your lifetime. Like, edge rushers is not what y'all do. Y'all do edge rush by committee. Trey Hendrickson probably has the whole total of everybody minus Kyle Van Noy over there. Don't get me started when y'all have Owe. Owe is in no way messing with Trey Hendrickson whatsoever. He's not a Raven. You saw. He said,
all right, this is a crazy coincidence. It is a Ravens fan that be following me all over Twitter, and he has that same name. I'm sorry, Fuzzy.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
I'm just gonna say, Fuzzy. They did that when we first signed Trey. The sacks aren't real, bro. 17.5 sacks is 17.5 sacks. I can't take that away from him or anything like that. I get it. Like you did say, there were some games that he didn't show up in, but there was one statement game with the playoffs on the line where he did show up. He ended up having a really big play. But you also said rumors that the Colts have offered their high second and Kwity Paye. I don't know. Is that true? Because I don't think that the Bengals are saying no to that. A second rounder and Kwity Paye, like,
is Kwity Paye? I remember Kwity Paye from the draft. Is Kwity Paye been productive? Like, I don't know that.
He said that he had 8 sacks in 2020.
Okay.
He's a younger player. A high second round. How high are we talking? Are we talking like near the end of the first round? Like, that's something that I probably consider. I don't know how good that rumor is, though.
I think Kwity Paye, and I just think like a souped up Cam Sample.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not Trey Hendrickson. That's not Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, Antoine Odom vibe.
Like, I would want to make it very clear, even though there might be somebody that hates my guts for even giving any bit of bail for the front office. I want to make it very clear. I want Trey Hendrickson to be on the Bengals. I just think that this angst and the pressure and this chaotic, frenetic pace of like, we got to sign it, we got to do it right now. I just don't share that same agreement. Trey Hendrickson, you know, one of your points that you make about like Myles Garrett and TJ Watt, I would want for one season, and this might just be just how much I like Trey Hendrickson as a player, whether it's on the Bengals or whether it's on like a team like the Eagles. I think Trey Hendrickson could have the craziest season that the world has ever seen. Like, if you give him one other guy on the opposite side of him or in the middle of the defense or something like that, if you gave me, let's say, Walter Nolan, Harmon, or somebody, and they're actually getting pressures, and then Miles Murphy wakes up, that will go crazy. I low-key just want to see him on the, like, tell the Eagles send me a first-round pick. I low-key just want to see him on the Eagles because I think that everybody would regard him as the number one edge rusher in all of football. Like, just for my psyche, I need to see him thrive. Like, I really do. And the argument, I think that, and he pointed this out today, and he did it in a good way. He was like, yeah, they don't have Sam Hubbard anymore. There is nobody that, like he was laying it out like, why would you not pay me?
You have nobody.
The argument that I would give him is that, okay, you think one man can take this defense to the whatever. If you said to the Bengals you want them to win a Super Bowl, couldn't we supplement the position and give multiple bodies at the position and do it that way too? And he probably said, yeah, that's fair. But the problem is nobody's giving adequate compensation to give us those extra pieces. That's why in my mind I'm formulating this is what it looked like if the Eagles or the Commanders were to give us the pick. But then Ian Rappaport has a report to say there's no offer on the table like that, and the Bengals aren't interested in trading them. So then I'm like, so we got a stalemate here. Like, what do you want? Like, I mean, the Bengals are not giving guarantees. The agent has told them that he could do something that he couldn't. They're not communicating with the agent. They made that very clear. It's a good back and forth, I think, from a business standpoint. As a fan, I hate it. But from a business standpoint, I am very interested to see where this goes because both sides have great points.
All right. So somebody in the comments, because I went off on the Ravens, I blacked out on them. They tried to say Terrell Suggs. Terrell Suggs, they never had 17 and a half sacks in a season, and that's a Hall of Famer, my boy. Like, he's had 14. His highest year was 14. So he's never had 17 and a half. No disrespect to Terrell Suggs, but they don't have Terrell Suggs right now for the Ravens fans watching. But yeah, partner, I think right now we're looking at a stalemate, bro. And honestly, I just said this on Bleacher Report. Another play, I'm not saying that they're going to do it because one of the things we thought was that they could give him a bump, move him up to 30, and be like, all right, if we can't come to an agreement, you just play this year out. I don't think he's going to do that. But this is another play that the Bengals have done in the past. The Bengals get to like pick 16. They call Trey Hendrickson's agent. Let's say Mike Green is on the board because they did this with Andre Smith. They still technically have another little leverage play that they could do where they get to the draft. They are sitting there and they're like, hey, Trey, this is the deal. You either take it or we're going to draft this guy and respect to you and respect to whatever. We're going to have you try to play out this last year. It is what it is. But now they're in a situation where they may have some leverage. What do you think of that scenario? Do the Bengals get to the draft like they did with Andre Smith,
yes,
and sit there and say, there's a tackle on the board. We could draft your replacement right now. The offer is the offer. Are you taking it? We want you to be a Bengal. We don't want to go in this direction, but you're leaving us with no choice.
I think in any scenario, I hate that them forcing it, but I don't see a scenario where they're not drafting his replacement. I feel like Myles Murphy was the Sam Hubbard replacement when they drafted him. He's going to be really good against the run, gives you more athleticism. I think Osai is like your guy that you just, an extra piece for the year. I think they had to draft his Trey Hendrickson's replacement anyway, because once you make the conscious decision that we're going to play 2 top 10 wide receivers, top 10 money in the NFL, you can't have the luxury of paying a top level player for multiple years on the opposite end. You could do it for a little while because as it stands, the cap space of the 3 players between those 3 is at 20-something%. But once they add on Trey Hendrickson, you get to that 40-something% threshold for cap space. And most teams in the NFL, as I've highlighted all season, this is not unorthodox to have your best 4 or 5 players in the NFL represent 40-something% of the cap. In fact, Joe Goodberry put out a chart where he talked about 10+ teams that are actively doing it right now. The difference is they're not doing it with 2 wide receivers. But so if you're going to do that on that end of the spectrum, then on the opposite end, you got to understand there's going to be some give there where you got to hit on draft picks on that side. So they're going to have to draft his, whether they get this extension done or not. they're gonna have to draft the edge within the first 2 rounds, in my opinion. I don't think there's no way.
What edges are you looking at? What edge? We kind of talked a little bit, but let's expound that now. What edge rushers are you looking at? Because
I think my number one target as we're getting closer and closer to the draft, I would love one of the 3 techs. I just don't like it at the pick 17. I just don't like it because I don't feel like their record or their bill of health or whatever you could say, the full profile is not clean enough for me. But the one, and it might not be the cleanest, but he has a lot of his comp has been Khalil Mack. But I think that uncanny knack to get around the corner of a tackle with Mike Green is the guy that I think would possibly be there. I think if he were to go, it'd be a couple of spots right before then. But Mike Green would be my guy that I think is probably the number one. I can see Stewart falling, and the Bengals might have that option to take him too. And I'm starting to look at him a lot more because his athletic, he just doesn't have a production. But anybody that you know, and I talked about this on the last show, I just think that Mike Green has everything that you need to go and win day one in the NFL. And if they put together a NASCAR package with him year one with Trey Hendrickson or not, I just think you'll get results from him immediately. Some of the things that I think people are worried about, I'm not as worried about because his size, when you go to put him up against other guys that are in our division, he has the same build and the same weight as TJ Watt. I think it's very possible. I just think he can win like early day one. I think a lot of those other guys need to learn more moves, like the kid from Georgia, Mikael or whatever.
Mikael Williams. Yep.
Mikael Williams. He needs to learn, but like he's a lot like Miles Murphy. Like I think he's really good against the run.
Yep.
But he doesn't have what Mike Green has initially. And then the guy that we talked about, Pierce, I like him a lot. But the red flags, there was a report today that said they didn't even know if he was going to show up for practice. You think the Bengals are about to? I don't even think he's on the Bengals board.
Nah, they're not dealing with that again. Let me ask you a quick question. I'm going to go with some high upside guys that don't have the strongest pass rushing profile. And I want you to pick. I don't think we want either one of these guys. But if you had to, out of this 3 guys that I'm going to name here, prospects, which one are you taking? Landon Jackson, the guy that's 6'7", 280, but has had a really low pass rush win rate. Obviously, the guy that everybody's talking about, Shamar Stewart, high potential as an athlete, hasn't really shown it as a rusher. And then Mikael Williams. Out of those 3 rushers, which ones are you taking?
You named Stewart?
Yep. Stewart.
Yeah.
Williams and Landon Jackson.
You already got Mikael Williams on your roster and Miles Murphy to me. I really feel like the run stopping ability and stuff, like you'll get that, but the project and everything, Stewart gives me the freak athleticism that I need. Doesn't give me everything I desire from a pass rushing standpoint early on, but I just think that that's a guy that you probably seen mocked in the top 10, like all, you know what I'm saying? He just started falling like right after, you know, I don't know. I don't love any of the 3. To me, I keep on saying Mike Green because I just think that day one, he was going to pop up and he's going to flash on your screen. I really do. Maybe it's not early downs, but on third down. But if I'd had to go with those ones, Stewart.
I think I'm actually going to go with Landon Jackson. I think he also has the athleticism, the 4.68 to 40.5 is vertical. He's the second most athletic edge rusher there. But I like what he can do from a pass rushing standpoint. And also, some people have him at 6'7", some people have him at 6'6". Depends on who you talk to when it comes down to that. I think that he can play at 270. So you're talking about a guy that's 6'6", 6'7", 270 with the athleticism. I just don't know if the Bengals have had anything like that since like a Carlos Dunlap. Maybe one of those guys, maybe if they're there in the second round, the Bengals consider him. I think Stewart might be going first round, though. And I don't know if I could take him at 17, bro. I think, honestly, are you taking Stewart at 17, or are you saying like a trade back scenario, second round scenario?
I think if it came down to it, if I saw that same board, that would mean that some of the top guys that I want are gone.
Mm-hmm.
But much like when we did our mock draft, I'm probably just gonna take the best player available. So like if that's like Malachi Starks or somebody like that, I'm just I'm running with that over Stewart. Me personally, I don't think I'm not letting this Trey Hendrickson thing, and I'm not letting this guard thing fog up my vision of what I think the best player available is. And that is the key for me with the Bengals is do not let those two things fog your vision. Like the report that we got from Zach the other day of saying we can address guard, we'll see what we got afterwards, lets me to believe that there's a chance that they could double back, come back, get a Reisner or a Scherf or somebody like that. With that being said, I am not reaching on guard. The Trey Hendrickson thing is very unfortunate. He's under contract, but I am not sacrificing talent just because I'm feeling that I'm not Billy Pricing myself. All right, that's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to Billy Price myself. Hopefully, I don't Jackson Carmen myself either.
All right, Darius Alexander. What are your thoughts on him?
You go first.
Well, obviously, he was, lightly recruited, late bloomer out of Toledo. However, he's put up some really strong PFF grades. He was rated 3rd against all defensive interior players. And then I think he had an 80.6 grade, 77.5. This last one, though, was a 90. His pass rush win rate is 12.9%. But he comes from a smaller school. Now, the Bengals have taken guys out of Toledo. Is he a guy that you think that the Bengals consider from that standpoint? Or do you think he's, with him being from a small school, is that the Cordell Volson kind of vibes from that standpoint?
What round are we talking about, though? Like, we're now.
I think if you're talking
now first.
Darius Alexander, definitely not in the first. I'm thinking that you're at least 2nd, 3rd round if you're talking about Darius Alexander.
The one that keeps on popping up to me, I think, man, before I get to Darius Alexander, I think that the Bengals might even be I would hate this. I think they would probably be looking at like a Jack Sawyer or somebody like that before then. Like from
Jack Sawyer is all right. This is my only issue with that. Jack Sawyer is cool if you have a Trey Hendrickson on the roster. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what he offers outside of I don't want to make it like a lazy comparison, but everybody talks about how much like Sam Hubbard he is. But Sam Hubbard, I think your ceiling is capped. Now that's not bad. Having a Sam Hubbard isn't bad, but you're kind of putting everything on Trey Hendrickson. And if Trey Hendrickson isn't in there, you're definitely going committee. But then your committee is very similar to each other with Myles Murphy and Jack Sawyer. I think Jack Sawyer is just a less athletic version of Myles Murphy, which is why you kind of pointed out Myles Murphy could be the Sam Hubbard replacement because he's really good at setting the edge and stopping the run. However, Myles has this first step that's deadly, which makes him like another amount. Like he kind of has more potential than a Sam Hubbard or a Jack Sawyer. Whereas with Sawyer, I don't know if you really had that. Like this may be a hot take, but I actually want the other edge rusher from Ohio State over him. Like I take the other guy instead.
TJ.
Yeah, I take TJ instead.
Who I thought you were going to talk about was the kid from Boston College, Donovan Ezaraku.
Oh, that's my dog. The only issue is,
would you take him at 17? Would you take him at 17?
Bro, 6'2", 240 in the North. I'm a still take the chance, bro, because like when you watch the film on him, he doesn't look like somebody that's 6'2", 247. He's very similar, I feel like, to what you kind of see with James Pierce, but obviously he's shorter. But when you watch this guy, 18.2% pass rush win rate, true pass set, pass rush grade of 90.7, pass rush grade of 90. Dude had 14 sacks. Only had 2 the year prior in 13 games, but then he had 8 before that. I'm good with that variance, right? Like if you can get somewhere in between 8 to 14, I'm good with that. It's just the size. I don't know, like with the scheme and everything, I don't know how he fits our scheme. What about you in terms of him? I love him as a player, though.
I wouldn't take him at 17 because of that. I feel like he's gonna have a year where, and you saw them do this with a little bit with a King Davis Gaither, where they're gonna make him bulk up and get to where they want him to be. Right. I don't think that's gonna make his game stronger. And to me, I don't trust the Bengals with that. Like if it was the Steelers or somebody like that, I feel like they would manage it and figure out a way to make it work like year one. And I just don't trust the Bengals to do it. I think the one that's a little of a safer pick because he's more versatile, and you'll see a lot of people mock him to us is Nick Scorton from Texas A&M. Yeah. Because of his versatility, being able to play a 3-4, 4-3. I think that's another guy that I think will classify as like a safe pick. I think you could get him in a trade back. I think he wouldn't be drafted. I think the earliest he would be drafted is in the maybe like 26, 28, something like that. I don't see, because you got so many other edges that we're talking about that we're kind of putting on that same clip as them. I think there's a chance he could fall to the second. So, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't take any of these guys at 17. And that's why when I like a lot of these kids. But when I think about it in my mind, like what would the board look like? I just can't see me taking Nick Scorton.
I would have to move back to like 24, bro.
Yeah. And I think it would be tough to do that. If you did do a trade back, I think it would be with like an op. It'd be somebody that got really scared and they're coming up to get like Dart. And you have to go like the Steelers or something. I don't know what's going on with that Aaron Rodgers thing. But like say the quarterbacks are gone or something like that. I can't see a reason, because all of these profiles are so close to each other. I can't see a reason for the life of me unless somebody like a Genty or somebody like Falls, something crazy where somebody has to come up and get it. I can't. What is that guy like Abdul Carter and Graham and all these guys like that? They'll all be gone. And then when you get the Nick Scorton and Mikael Williams and all these guys, they're like you're not trading up to go get that. Like you're gonna stay packed and just live and die with one of them. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Right. Nah, that's a fact. Speaking of facts, it's a fact that Midwest Best Barbecue got the best wings in the Natty.
Now they call T. Higgins, or you say number 5s. Either way, you'll be winning. It's them hot honey lemon peppers. Now they call T. Higgins, or you say number 5s. Either way, you'll be winning. It's them hot honey lemon peppers. Now they call T. Higgins, or you say number 5s. Either way, you'll be winning. And much love to Mama T, Uno and CTB. MB's got Bengals wings, and now we just added T's. Cause 9 to 5 winning things. Gritty for Uno wings. We say yes, Sirski now. Like Aces and be saying that T got them new wings. Only at MB's. Honey lemon peppers. Now you can call them T's. Honey lemon peppers. Now they call T. Higgins. Or you say number 5s. Either way, you'll be winning. It's them honey lemon peppers. Now they call T. Higgins. Or you say number 5.
That was nice. I ain't gonna lie.
Shout out to Midwest Best Barbecue, 669 Justice Court in Loveland, Ohio. Make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you pop through there and let them know Ace and Zim sent you. They got all kinds of wings there. Sour cream and onion. They got the Grippo wings. They got the CTBs, the Dillinators. Check them out over in Loveland, 669 Justice Court in Loveland, Ohio. Want to thank you guys so much for rocking with the Wincinnati podcast. We appreciate y'all coming through.
I know we get all those super chats right there.
We got a super chat?
Did we do the row one? The Pratt should be traded.
I didn't see that one. Nope. Pratt
shout out to row
the draft and trade 17. I'm gonna be honest, man. I don't, with the needs that the Bengals have right now. I think a lot of people are just like upset about the missed tackles with Jermaine Pratt. But to be honest, we don't know what's going on with Trey Hendrickson right now at the edge position. I don't want to also have to worry about the linebacker position, but he did request a trade. So it's up to him for him to decide whether he wants to be on the team or not. I think a lot of people forget, even though he had the missed tackle rate, a lot of people forget he was top 10 in the league in tackles. So like I get it, but then we don't talk about how he was also top 10 in the league in tackles made.
For me, I think the Pratt thing will work itself out. Like if they drafted, there's a linebacker I like from Notre Dame, Kaiser. Our new coordinator will know a lot more about him than me, I guess. But I'm confident we can get a linebacker. I like Meta, and I also like Shaka Hayward as well too. I don't know if they're starting caliber linebackers in the NFL, but I think the draft, if they come out of it with no linebacker, then you better have a Pratt sitting right there. So to dismiss Pratt to me isn't smart without having a plan. That's where also I think the Trey Hendrickson, you could get a little bit of cap relief if they drafted a linebacker. You move Pratt, do something with him, and you free up like $6 million right there. So that might be an extra push that Trey Hendrickson needs. So as these two sides are lobbying, I think that's something also that's also important. And then don't forget the Zach Moss money is going to come off the books too as well. So you have about another 10 mil sitting out there ready for you. But Rose Full Super Chat said Pratt should be traded before the draft in trade 17. Mr. Whisper said, I don't have my damn glasses on. I know that they say you don't draft for need, but we have a ton of needs. I definitely understand that. We only have 6 picks, so we've been talking about trading back a lot. Mr. Whisper also said, appreciate you, bro. He said, put in Amori in spy and watch Lamar start to think twice about running. I think we read that one, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was from last show. That's crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Somehow you went to the last show. It's all good. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Wincinnati podcast. Once again, let us know in the comments after the show, not in the live chat, what you guys' opinions are. We truly appreciate that. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you hadn't, and we will see you guys next week.
Mock 2.0 next episode.